Happy Thursday, webheads! Yes, it's the day after New Comic Book Day, and this is another episode of Worthy Ones! Guys, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0, the video series where I take all the newest issue 1 comic books that I read for the current comic book week and deem them worthy or not worthy. So guys, we got a hefty show this week, so let's not waste any more time. So the first book we're talking about today is Groot, issue 1. You know, it's a perfect time to release this comic book as we were getting Guardians of the Galaxy being released. And, you know, who doesn't love Groot, right? I really enjoy the character on the movies and in the comic books. So I wanted to see what this book had to offer. This one is written by Dan Abnett. The artwork is done by Damian Coserioro. Again, I apologize for slaying these names, but I'm not very good at pronunciations at time. Here's the artwork. It's not bad. I actually liked it. I thought the characters looked kind of cool. They tried to go creative with like these chainsaw T-Rex like creatures. You know, makes sense because it's like Groot's made out of wood. Why not try to kill Groot with like a chainsaw? You know, I don't know. Whatever. It's okay. The artwork's explosive. It's got vibrant colors. And yeah. So overall, when it comes to this story, right away, guys, I'm going to deem this one not worthy. I'm not going to beat around the bush for this one. This is a story about a young Groot where his planet is in all of disarray because of these T-Rex chainsaw monsters that are going to invade it and eliminate like his kind. Then we wind up getting to see Marvel when he is, you know, like a young recruit or a private or whatnot, and he goes and tries to rescue Groot and his other people. It just wasn't really interesting for me. It didn't capture me all that much, and this is something where I'm just not going to continue to read. So if I had to grade this book, I'm probably going to grade it a C-, even a D+ at that point. It was one of those books where it was like, why do I really care about it? Why do I want to continue to read it? It doesn't even really mean anything. It's Groot, right? And half the time, you can't even understand what Groot is saying because all he says is, I am Groot, because Marvel's translator is not even working in the comic book. So yeah, it's a miss for me. And there's a lot of talking heads in this book too. So yeah, for me, I'm just going to pass on it. I'm not going to read going forward. The next number 1 issue that I bought this week that I was like, you know what, I'll just put it on FOC, read it, and see what it's about. It's called Star Signs. This is issue 1. Yeah, guys, this is about the constellations, the zodiac signs, right? And I'm like, hey man, what's your sign? Like, would I really read a comic book about that? So I was like, all right, we'll see what it has to offer. Now, the writer here is Saladin Ahmed, and the artist is done by Megan Levins. Now, Saladin Ahmed just most recently did the Terror War comic book, which I really enjoyed. And now here he's got star signs. So when you open up this comic book, here for instance, this page here, this 2-page spread, this is like the constellations like totally exploding, right? And I thought that was kind of cool. The characters look fine. You know, the artwork was serviceable. Some big panels here that take up a lot of page space. But there is a solid story here, okay? So what happens in this comic book is we get the constellations blowing up, and there's this scientist that's been studying this event that's going to be happening for years. That's kind of how the comic book opens up, right? And so what happens is we go to our main character here who is aware of the event. Everyone is aware of the events, but it's not anything that's dramatic that affects Earth because it's out in space, right? And so our main character is kind of like a prep chef, or she works like events and serving people and whatnot. And her name is Raina. And we get to see her go to work and do her everyday life. And the next thing you wind up seeing is when her boss is giving her a bunch of shit, she winds up getting stressed out, and you get to see all of a sudden these powers taking effect. And her power is where she can actually affect time. So time can stand still. So she was able to, get the job done in a timely manner, and her boss didn't even know that time stood still. So now she started experimenting with her powers with her roommate, and she's like, holy cow, like, what's going on with me? Like, I can literally stop time. Well, the next thing we wind up finding out is we see someone else bust through her apartment, and she knows who she is, and she's like, hello, Taurus, and she's like, you need to come with me. And it's like, oh crap. So what's going on here in the series premiere is it looks like we're going to get introduced to, 12 different people, people from all the zodiac signs. So I'm going to deem this book worthy. Yeah, this is very entertaining. I like how we actually highlighted a specific character and we got briefly introduced to the next one, and it looks like we're going to be slowly introduced to all the characters there. I love that character development, and this is something different, man. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this book a solid B, right? Very interesting, intriguing. Hopefully the story continues to develop, and I'm going to recommend this one in a week where we have a ton of issue ones being released. So the next number one comic we're talking about is Spider-Man 2099. This is Dark Genesis. This is issue 1. Now, we had a big Spider-Man 2099 event last year where it introduced a ton of characters, and it kind of carries over to this year. So if you're not familiar with what happened last year, I don't know, guys, you might be a little bit lost by this. This is written by Steve Orlando. The artwork is done by Justin Mason. Here's the artwork a little bit in this book. It's okay. It's not like my favorite art. Has a lot of inks in it. It seems like it wants to be a little bit more street level, or maybe they're even going for a feel of like Edge of SpiderVerse here. So it's not bad. I have seen better artwork when it comes to Spider-Man comics, but it's serviceable art. I liked it. It's okay. So let's talk about some of the characters that are in this book. So obviously you get Spider-Man 2099, right? You wind up getting Carnage 2099. It's the first time you're going to see him in this universe. You wind up getting Layla, who is the AI for 2099. You get Spider-Woman, which we saw briefly at the end of last year's event. You get Alea Bell, who's Venom in this world. She's a female version, obviously. You get Ghost Rider and Moon Knight, okay? Those are some of the characters that are in here. And so what happens is you get like this street level boss who is like basically being threatened and is about to get murdered, okay? And then all of a sudden he comes across the Carnage symbiote. Now, over the years, the Carnage symbiote has changed. It hypnotizes people, and like it has to have blood in order to live. It's like some kind of vampire. And obviously, since it was under Acclamax's protection, then what's going on is they can't gain control of this thing. So some way, shape, or form, they gotta profit off of everything. So they want no ties to the Carnage symbiote. They said, we have nothing to do with it. But now that people are getting hurt, we're going to raise the cost of medical bills, and we're going to profit off of that. So people are getting hurt and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And then they're trying to go to the hospital, and they can't get in the hospitals. And we get the person by the name of Alea Bell, whose dad was caught in an accident while battling Carnage, and he couldn't even get into the hospital. So he makes his way home, and he winds up dying in her hands, right? And then all of a sudden she's like, that's it, I'm going to become Venom once again. And so you wind up getting to see her change into Venom. So there's that. That's pretty much the issue. So I'm going to deem this book worthy. Yeah, even though I can honestly say it was probably a weaker issue, I still enjoyed it enough to see how the story is going to continue. It's going to warrant a second issue here. So if I had to give this book a grade, I'm going to give it a C. It was average. I've definitely have read better events when it comes to Spider-Man and even Spider-Man 2099. It just seemed like there was carnage everywhere, and that's basically what the issue was. There wasn't a solid, meat to the story, but it was okay. It's like one of those books where it's just like, okay, have fun with it. But even the fun wasn't the greatest fun I've ever had, right? So we'll see what happens when it comes to Spider-Man 2099. Here we go. Edge of Spider-Verse, issue 1. I don't know why we're having Spider-Verse books come out when we just got the end of the Spider-Verse, but I guess they want to explore more Spider-Verses that are going on since the Web of Life is all calm and everything. And obviously, since you got Miles Morales getting ready to come out with his movie, I guess that's why we're still doing all this stuff. But anyway, we got the writer, Xander Cannon. Carla Pacheco does the artwork in this book. I'm not going to lie, the artwork is actually really good in this comic. It's bright, it's vibrant. You get Spider T-Rex in this comic book, which we did see him once before. It has all the the Spider characters represented in this comic. Like, you get a version of Kraven the Hunter and Mary Jane. J. Jonah Jameson is in here. In this comic, you wind up getting Venom, which is interesting. But, it was just this battle, these guys fighting each other. And I am not the target audience when it comes to this comic book, right? I thought I would be interested in the backup story, which is the Spider Killer story. And that story just wound up being a disappointment for me. It was just very weird. I didn't like the artwork. The letters in the actual book is cursive, so that makes it much harder to read and kind of understand the story. But basically, you get a version of Spider-Man that's just very dark and looks like a spider, and he just kills everybody, where Spider-Man normally wouldn't, right? And so that's what happens in that second story. But I'm going to deem this book, for me, not working. Yeah, this particular issue of Spider-Verse is just not me. It doesn't hit the audience here. Now, when it comes to the dinosaur stuff, I think this might be good for a younger audience, and kids might get a kick out of seeing these dinosaurs as Spider-Man. But just for me, it doesn't work, and the backup story doesn't work. So I'm going to give this book a D. I gotta give it to the artwork, though. It's quite interesting there. But I will check out the next issue, because obviously it's going to deal with different spiders, and you never know when you get that next really cool Spider-Man character. Cult of Carnage, Mystery Issue 1. So Liz Allen's been part of the Osborn family for a long time, and it's just kind of funny how she's never become some kind of symbiote or goblin or whatever it is, right? So obviously she has her son, who is the Red Goblin, and based off of what happens in this issue, she becomes a symbiote. Now, the journey to get to that point was actually a lot of fun. This book is written by Sabir Perizada. Francisco Mortarino is the artist of the book. I love this book. I love the way it looked. It looked great. Facial expressions were great. Action scenes were awesome. The villains looked like something you would see like in a cartoon or something like that. Just everything about the comic just had you really appreciating that art. So here's some explosiveness going on in here too. So let's talk about the characters, the story, all that stuff in here. So we get a lot of characters in this book, and you get a lot of story for what you pay for. This is a $5 comic book, right? And so you wind up getting Liz Allen in here. You wind up getting Dr. Steven, who's the guy that takes care of like all the symbiotes. You wind up getting Normie Osborn, Stanley Osborn, Corwin Jones, who's an Acclimax soldier who kind of tries to actually capture all the symbiotes. You wind up getting Spearhead, who, is another character in here. There's a lot of people in here, right? And so what Liz Allen is trying to do is she's trying to take all the symbiotes and calm it down, right? To use the anti-venom and the Carnage symbiote, kind of blend them together to try to use it for science, to try to cure cancer, to try to, fix amputees and things like that. She's trying to use it for the better. Now, there is this doctor in here where she's gone to for advice, and he sits there, he goes, you're going to use this. I know you're going to change the world, but this is like suicide. You can't do this, right? So you get Acclimax soldiers trying to get the symbiotes, and they go into her apartment, they bomb it, and all of a sudden what happens is everything explodes. Liz Allen actually has a little vial of symbiote where she took it to the doctor to examine, and the next thing you wind up finding out in here is that, yeah, she becomes a symbiote, which is, there's no surprise there, there's no spoiler. We all knew that was going to happen, and we get to see it, you know, possess her towards the end of the comic book, which is cool. I like seeing the transformation happen, and then she kind of looks like this, okay? So it's bonding with her, and now she's called Misery. I love this story. I thought this was a worthy comic book. You know, this is something that, again, you know, a lot of symbiote stuff brings me back to when I was a younger age, but the origin story of this character, of this particular symbiote, was just fun. And it wasn't just like, oh, let's just slap this on there where, you know, breaks free of a freaking tube and then all of a sudden it possesses her. No, it shows Liz Allen as a, you know, a CEO of a corporation trying to change the world, and, you know, with a world with all different symbiotes, to kind of come up with another one, it was a good story. So I think I'm going to give this one a B, man. I definitely recommend it. Go ahead, check it out if you were on the fence. I promise, guys, this is the final symbiote or Spider-Man book that we're talking about today. This is Carnage Reigns Alpha. This is a 60-page comic book, $8. Now, this book has multiple writers on it because there is multiple stories, but all the stories tie into what is going on in this current story. So I think you'll be, you know, surprised at how well all these stories were written. We have Alex Pandel in the story, David Pepose, Charlene Eaton, Cody Ziegler. Yeah, a lot of people writing this, and the artwork was very good. I loved how dark, how horrific this book could be at times, especially with the pages where they show Cletus Cassidy battling Miles Morales. Scorpion is in this book, which is one of my favorite all-time Spider-Man villains. He is in a strike force working for Agent Gow, where she's like Amanda Waller, and she takes bad guys and she puts them out and tries to stop other bad guys, right? So they can reduce time on their sentences and stuff like that. It's definitely like an Amanda Waller ripoff. Check out more of this artwork here. So really good stuff here. So, like I said, there's multiple stories in this comic book, and it's a lot of fun. First story, we wind up getting to see Miles Morales, how he does battle against Cletus Cassidy, Carnage, right? You get to see a whole battle right there. We get to learn how Carnage's soul is within the some kind of like Tony Stark armor during King in Black, and it's also connected to a symbiote dragon. So he's able to spread like the symbiote all over the place and pretend that there's things that exist that don't. Just really insane stuff. But the battle was really a lot of fun. They make Carnage and Cletus just very, again, horrific. You wind up getting to see this huge battle between Scorpion and Cletus. So that was awesome, right? I mean, there was nothing wrong with that. And at the last page of that particular story, you're kind of like, holy crap, what just happened to Carnage now, right? I don't know if this leads into the Summer of Symbiotes or whatever it is, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Then in the next story, you wind up getting to see Scorpion, how he got recruited in his first time on the job working with Agent Gal, and or Gio, I don't know how to say her name, man, I'm sorry, but how he, you know, stopped bank robbers and stuff like that, and he's like, oh yeah, this is easy. So you get to see the recruitment of him and trying to be like somewhat of an anti-hero or a good guy, right? So you saw that. Then in the very third story, you just wound up getting to see a glimpse of Miles on what he went through when Carnage kind of like briefly took over his mind. And you can see that it's still affecting him today. His father thinks of him all the time. And then you get to see like the two detectives, like Agent Gal and Agent Shade, who are currently in the Carnage book currently, or Agent Shade is in the Carnage book currently, on how they did battle early on against Carnage. So they've come across him. Just overall, this story was worthy. It was awesome. It was definitely the price of admission of $8. Everything tied together so nicely. And I can't wait for these next few issues that cross over within Spider-Man issue 6 or Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 6, Carnage issue 13, Red Goblin issue 5. And then we get the Summer of Symbiotes. And the thing that's even better in this comic book is, like, if you're not sure of who the symbiotes were on this little poster here or whatever, it tells you everybody who it's at. So it shows you where Noel's at, or Dylan's at, Silence, or Eddie Brock, which was also a lot of fun. And then you get introduced to all the new characters that are going to be in the Extreme Venomverse. This was fun. I'm giving it an A, guys. This is 90s goodness for me. I was like a little kid, on summer break, during, when school was out, and going to the comic shop, buying those Spider-Man comic books, and just sitting there reading and just getting lost in my world. Dude, I loved it so much. I cannot wait for the next issue. Here is the newest book from Whatnot Publishing. Guys, this is Astrobots. This is issue 1. Guys, speaking of Whatnot, I have a link in my description box below. Go ahead and click on that link. You guys can get a free $15 off of your first purchase on Whatnot. So check that out. All right, so Astrobots issue 1. This is written by Simon Furman, and the artwork is done by Hector Trunick. Now, if you guys are not familiar with Mr. Furman, he's the guy that did the Transformers series. So this is actually perfect for him to create a new robot race, right, called the Astrobots. The artwork here by Hector Trunick is absolutely amazing. It looks just like Transformers. I remember reading like preview pages of this book. I'm like, dude, this is so like Transformers, What are you gonna have, Autobots and Decepticons fight each other, right? I mean, it looked amazing. I loved the artwork in this book. And even though it wasn't Transformers, I was like, it just gave me that vibe. And it brought me back to, when I was a kid in the 80s, when I was reading this for the first time, right? I'm reading this. It just reminded me of, watching Transformers on TV for the first time. That's what this brought to me. So what is Astrobots about, and why did I like it? Besides, giving me Transformer vibes. Well, it was very interesting. These Astrobots are trying to save civilization. These robots are created by man. The end of the world is happening. There is this spaceship that is arriving on this Earth planet that these Astrobots actually created, okay? So they're built to save the human race. And what happens in this comic book is we wind up getting the introduction to Atlas, who is the main bot, the guy who's created this whole Astro City, or whatever, this Earth. And it's this guy right here, okay? So as the ship approaches, they wind up getting this visitor, and his name is Apollo, and he's one of the older bots. And he's come to this place with some kind of warning. But, our little robots here, they're not really, they think this guy is like, kind of on the like sketchy side, and they start battling him and fighting him and stuff like that. And by the time you wind up getting to the end of this issue, they wind up coming to terms with each other, and he's going to give them a warning why this ship should maybe not come to Earth. And then there also looks like there's some kind of like treachery going on to where people don't want the humans to come to this planet. This book is worth it. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I never thought it was going to be as entertaining as it was. The artwork was going to be as good as it was. I felt it was going to be generic. I had a lot of fun with this, and I feel like when it comes to the Whatnot books, this is by far the best book that they have put out so far. So guys, go out there, buy Astrobots. I'm going to give this one an A. It just was a lot of fun, and again, it brought back those Transformer vibes. Shazam, issue 1. So listen, I'm not a huge Shazam fan. I only read a handful of modern day series when it comes to the character. But when this book was announced and I saw who was writing it, which is obviously Mark Waid and Dan Mora doing the artwork, when we got this Dawn of DC news, I was like, I'm definitely going to check this out because of World's Finest. They can't do any wrong on that. And when it came to the artwork in this book, it was the same thing, man. It looked so good. I love the facial expressions here. I mean, even though Shazam is an adult at this point here, right? It's Billy. Like, you can see his facial expression. Like, he's like a little kid in this comic. And what I thought that this comic book did a nice job of is making it new reader friendly, which they did, I felt like, with Green Arrow in a way too, because you got to see all the different Green Arrow family members. And I really enjoyed this book. It was just like a real lighthearted comic. It was just like, this is who I am and this is where my powers come from. We get to see him have fun with a T-Rex family that's from outer space. It's like totally off the wall, totally fantasy. Like, I could give this book to a 10-year-old and they would have so much fun reading this comic book. You know, it was just that much fun. You just learn everything about the character. So then when it comes time to saving a whole bunch of people in this like earthquake or sinkhole that happened, and then all of a sudden he's on camera and he's like giving everybody hugs and whatnot, all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, he's like, you cow. He's like, get away from me. I can't stand all you people. You should be grateful. And everyone's like, what? And then all of a sudden he flips the switch back again and he's like, whoa, what did I just say? And you're just kind of like, oh my God, what just happened? Like that took me by surprise. I did not expect that to happen whatsoever. Oh my God, that was so much fun. I'm deeming this book worthy, absolutely worthy. This book was fantastic. And what I loved about it was seeing the human side of Billy as well, on why he doesn't stay as the captain, as he's called now, all the time. Right? Because he wants to be a boy. He wants to experience the falls of, you know, the good and the bad things of life, not just being a superhero all the time. I just thought that was absolutely awesome. I'm going to give this book an A+. My gosh, this was so great. Never expected it to be as good as it was. Definitely a recommend for this week. So the next new #1 comic book that we're going to be talking about today is Peacemaker Tries Hard. This is issue 1, written by Kyle Starks and Steve Pugh. Now, the artwork in this book was really good. I love seeing Peacemaker in this comic book, and just all the crazy stuff that he does in the comic is awesome. We get to see the Suicide Squad in here, so different appearances from different characters, and I love this comic. Now, this book is not for the younger audience. This is a DC Black Label book, so it's 17 and older. There's a lot of vulgar language in here and just adult-themed stuff, right? Now, I don't know much about Peacemaker. The only time I've ever seen him is actually in the Suicide Squad movie. So I was interested in this comic to see what it has to offer. Now, I never watched the show either. So this comic book had Peacemaker, who wants to have a new lease on life, right? He just recently got released from the Suicide Squad. Amanda Waller calls him up for a job. Now, he's still on parole. He can't really cross state lines, but he does decide to take the job because, again, he wants to create peace in the world. And everything that he does in this comic is great. While he's talking to Amanda Waller, he's like, yo, is the Suicide Squad here? He's like, I want to invite them to a party this weekend and get together. And the Suicide Squad's like, we're not here, dude, because, you know, last time we were there, all he wanted to show us was his VHS porn, you know, and that's it. And then it's just like, he's at the grocery store and the person's like, dude, I've never heard of you before. It's like, I don't know. But anyway, he accepts the job, and he comes across this dog. You know, this terrorist group is there. It was a stray dog, and he's like, what's his name? And the guy's like, dude, we don't know what the dog's name. It's a stray, you idiot. Don't you know that? He goes, oh, he's like, you're like a young little Bruce Wayne. Look at you. You got a nice little tuxedo on. Come on, you're a fine little man. So he takes the dog home, and now it's his new little best friend, and it's the one thing that respects him, because that's what he's clamoring for right now. Respect, right? And he's trying to get friends. And this is the one dog. This is the one thing that's showing him that. And you get to see a brief little history on how Christopher never was really loved, and he doesn't know how to show that love either, right? So very interesting there. And then by the time you wind up getting to the end of this book, you wind up seeing the Brain, who is just a brain. And I think the only time I've ever seen this character is like in Teen Titans Go, and he wants a new body. He wants the DNA of Deathstroke. So he's sending Peacemaker after, to get Deathstroke's DNA. Otherwise, he's going to kill little Bruce Wayne. This book is so worthy. Oh my God. There is not too many books out there that make me laugh out loud as hard as this comic book did. I mean, I was crying reading this comic book, right? This book is an A+. When a book can make you cry laugh, dude, it is worthy in my book any day. And the story was phenomenal. I absolutely loved it. I cannot wait for issue 2. I am so curious to hear what you guys think in the comments below of this comic. So there you have it, webheads. There are the issue 1s that I read for the comic book week. And now if there's anything that you deemed worthy or not worthy, I want to know in the comments below, or something that you read that was a new issue 1 that I didn't read, you can also let me know in the comments below. Of course, guys, if you love my content, you know what you got to do. Subscribe and like, hit the bell. And of course, I'll leave you more content right here. This is my newest comic book day haul, where I show you everything I picked up for the comic book week. And of course, guys, keep buying, keep collecting, but more importantly, always read your comics. Guys, I'll see you real soon. Take care. Bye.